Good morning, YouTube. My name is Will. It's a lovely rainy day. And today we are going to talk about 10 quick tips you should know if you're going to go buy a new car specifically or a used car. I'm not a huge fan of new cars, but I have bought a few. I've bought a lot of used cars. These are some things I've learned over the years. If you don't know me, I may not look that old. I don't think of myself as being that old. But I've purchased, you can go to my about section, but like 20 some odd different vehicles. So I've done this a lot, not only from my own personal experience, but for research prior to those purchases. This is kind of some just quick things that I've come up with. One, do not ask them what the payment would be. You should know what the payment would be. Doesn't take a rocket scientist nowadays. Just Google car payment calculator. It doesn't have to be perfect. I get that some of you want to budget down to the penny, and that's all well and good, but you have to realize that when negotiating cars and everything, you should just be able to know that, okay, if I can get this car for $25,000, that's going to put my payment around $400. If I get it for $26,000, that's going to put my payment around $430, whatever. You should have those numbers ahead of time. That way, when you're negotiating, if you want a specific payment amount, find out what that max number is. And if you want, what I typically do is, I take my best guess at what interest rate I could get, and then I add like 2 or 3% to it. So, I will literally put like 5, 6, 7% in the interest rate box of the payment calculator. That way I have like an upper extreme that I know that as long as I get the purchase price of the vehicle below this dollar amount, there is pretty much no way I can't hit my payment. So then, let's say that number's $25,000 and I get them down to $25,000, $200,000, then I can be like, okay, I'm probably fine. The reason for this is you start talking payments, it's another number. Now you've got the purchase price, you've got the interest rate, you've got the payments. They just start throwing all these numbers and you'll get lost and confused, and they love that, so don't do that. Number 2, know about all the available rebates prior to negotiating. You can go on the manufacturer's websites. There's third-party websites you can look up. This is super important because if a car is $25,000 and the manufacturer is offering a $1,000 discount to, I don't know, let's say military personnel, that's like a common one. That's not the dealership giving you money. So now that $25,000 car is $24,000 and the dealership is still getting the full value. They're still getting sticker price. So the dealership has done nothing for you. So if you know you're eligible for X, Y, and Z rebates that should get the price down to $23,000, that's your starting point. You want to get below $23,000 because $23,000 is now sticker price. Number 3, assuming there's multiple versions of the car that you're looking at, truck, SUV, whatever, do your research ahead of time. Check their vehicle inventory. If possible, maybe even go there like the night before or after they're closed. You can kind of look around, kind of ensure. But when you're looking around and they're asking you questions and stuff, you want to say something to the effect of, I'd really like a blue one, when you know good and well there's not a single blue one on that lot. Or I really wanted the, XLT model, when you know there's no XLT models on the lot. I'm never a fan of lying. I don't think you should go into these negotiations lying. I think there's a fine line between playing poker, negotiating, and lying, but it doesn't have to be something that you're dead set on. A good example of this is years ago when I bought a Civic Si, they only had, I think, blue on the lot, and I just did not want blue. I didn't want navigation, and I didn't want blue. And those were true. Did I care if it had navigation and was blue? Not really. I just didn't want to pay for navigation, and blue wasn't my favorite color. So that was a good negotiating tip, and it's one that I used throughout that entire process. Was I kept coming back, like we'd get a little farther in the negotiations, we'd kind of hit a roadblock where I couldn't get them down anymore, and I'd just be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just not feeling the blue, so maybe I should just think about it some more. And then they'd be like, well, let's see what else we can do, and you can move on from that. Oh, hi, Enzo. So the next thing is make it clear, whether directly, indirectly, however, just in conversation, that you don't have to buy today, which you really hopefully shouldn't be. I know there's some scenarios that come up when you do. Maybe it's something that I need to get a new car by fall, or my current car is getting a little old. I know it's lifespan's getting short or something, whatever. Just, you don't want to come in there and say like, AC broke in my car today, I'm done with it, I want a new car today, because that's just not going to end well. So you don't necessarily have to come out and say like, just so you know, I'm not buying today, but you don't want to come out and say that, just so you know, I am buying today, because that's not good either. So regardless, you kind of want to make it to where I could buy today, but I don't have to. Tip number 5, do not, I repeat, do not talk about your trade-in. If you're going to trade your car in, now is not the time to discuss it. You do not bring up a trade until you have 100% agreed in writing to a purchase price of a car. Now, if they, again, this kind of comes back to the lying, not lying thing. This is one thing that if they point blank ask me, are you trading in your car today? I will say no. Because if you say anything other than no, they'll want to keep bringing it up. Like, well, let's get it appraised, and that's just confusion. The fact is, if you're willing to buy a car that day and you know that, you should already know pretty much what your trade's worth. There are ways to do that. You can go to CarMax and different things. You can find out and have a pretty good idea. You should be able to estimate within like $500 of what they're going to offer you. Now, they could always surprise you either way, but generally speaking, you should kind of have a good idea. So if they ask me point blank, this is the one time I will actually just lie and say, no, I am not trading in. And then once you come to a price that you're happy with, you could always, then you could say, all right, this is good. You know, while we're here, why not? What would you give me for my trade-in? And you can go from there. There's 2 reasons for this. One is the confusion aspect. They're gonna, once, you know, just like with the payments, while you don't want to bring that up, now you've got the purchase price, the payment, the trade-in value, and they'll be moving numbers all around and you'll just get lost in all of it. So don't do it. The other thing is, you know, you're ready to buy, now it's all on the trade, because like they actually came in a couple $100 below what I was willing to take, and it was pretty easy to negotiate that up. I was like, hey, I need at least $200 more for my trade-in and we're good to go. We'll do it right now. And it was pretty much no-brainers. They were just like, all right, fine. You know, didn't affect the price of my car one bit. None of this, well, let's see, we could get your payment down by extending out your loan, you know, craziness that they like to do when they think you're going for a payment or something like that. None of that nonsense. So don't bring up your trade until you're fully agreed upon a purchase price. All right, tip number 6. Not all, but a lot of the salespeople, they're kind of idiots. And I don't mean that they're actually dumb people. What I mean is, you've been looking at a car, you've been researching it, you've been reading all about it. You probably know more than they do at this point. They're there to sell cars. They're just, in my experience, it doesn't take much to out-educate them on the product. Granted, they're trying to know something about all the cars, so I give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But I always find that a little disappointing. Regardless, don't argue with them. If they say something, you know, you'll get things like, oh yeah, the XL model comes with a sunroof, even though you know good and well the XL model doesn't come with a sunroof. Don't argue with them. It's just, it's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form to prove that you're smarter than them. I'm not saying you got to act like an idiot. You know, you could say like, oh, for some reason I thought only the XLT had the sunroof or whatever, you know, or something, but it's just not going to benefit you any way to argue with them or to try to prove that you're smarter. Number 7, speaking of the salespeople, they pretty much have no authority. So don't waste your time too much negotiating with them. I mean, you are going to negotiate, but really they're just going to go take the number to the sales manager. Sales manager is going to say a number, and it's this whole middleman game. So that way you're not dealing directly with the sales manager, so the salesperson gets to be your friend and all this. It's the whole selling tactic, but regardless, just know that they don't really have a whole lot of authority. On to the next point, aside from the sales manager, somebody who has a lot of authority and where the real selling is that you may not realize is the finance office. So once you've got an agreed upon price and they're like, okay, all we got to do is come in here and sign some paperwork, that's not what you're doing. Buddy, seriously? That is where the real selling is happening. So make sure you are extremely alert. This is where you would want to drink your energy drink or take a break even. You know, if you've been going all day and you're exhausted, and you've come to an agreement, you got it in writing, they say like, okay, great, all we gotta do is do up some paperwork. That's almost always gonna take a moment unless you're there just like on a really slow day, like on a Sunday evening or something. So what I would suggest is you've come to an agreement, they say, okay, we just gotta get you into the finance office, sign all the paperwork. That's awesome. You know, we're gonna run across the street and grab some food real quick. Take as long as you want, doesn't matter. But give yourself a break if need be, because in that finance office, you can get really screwed if you're not paying attention. Number 9, this is gonna generally happen before the finance office, but know that if you give them permission to run your credit, they're gonna run it through a lot of different places. So you may be okay with that. Maybe you're a younger person, you don't have a lot of credit, or maybe you not younger or whatever, you know you have bad credit, you're just trying to get approved. That may be fine with you. Run it through whatever, just see if you can get me approved. I understand there are people in that situation. Just know though that if you're in that not necessarily perfect credit to where you're gonna get like manufacturer financing or something like that, but you're not like terrible credit, know that they're gonna run it through a bunch. So if you've got a preference, you need to be very clear about that. Like, hey, run it through this and this only, and like have that in writing, because trust me, I've had it to where I tell them only run it through X, Y, or Z, and they still run it through a bunch of them, and it's super annoying. So just be mindful of that. If you're okay with it, that's fine, but just know that they will do that. They'll run it through a bunch and see what they can get back. And the 10th and final tip, speaking of running credit, they can change your APR. You get approved for, let's say, 1.9% APR, and that's what they tell you, but it turns out you actually got approved for 1.3% APR. Well, where's that extra percent from the 3 to the 9? Where's that extra 0.6? That's their profit. So if you have any doubts about their honesty or their integrity in that regards, I mean, you should be able to just ask them and they should tell you the truth. But if you have any doubts, you can always find out who they're financing through. Call that bank yourself, call their 800 number, ask them to pull up your credit app, see what you're approved for, and then you'll know. So that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys got some usefulness out of it. If you have questions about buying a car and you wanna comment below, I'd be happy to answer them. If you wanna DM me directly on Instagram, you can do that as well. Otherwise, appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Enzo, say bye.